This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode number 201. Today, our special guest is Elizabeth Correia. Elizabeth is a transformational speaker and author. She talks about how she committed to making self-care a number one priority in her life and shares how she stays true to her commitment. Don't miss it. Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is Michelle, and I am with my dear colleague,
Tracy. Surprise!
colleague, best friend, co-host, and we had a little bit of a fun girl power hour here.
Yeah, we did. That was great. It was so much
Yes.
fun. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Loved it. Well, of course. Love talking about prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself. And love meeting people who do it well.
Yeah. Yeah, and her energy. I love being around people with a lot of energy. And boy, Elizabeth had a lot of energy, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really great to talk with her and get to know her story. We're excited to have you listen. So without further ado, let me
Mhm.
introduce her and then you can hear her story and all of what she's doing. So, Elizabeth Correia is a transformational speaker, author, and coach. And she is the founder of Correia Enterprises, a women's platform for personal growth and lifestyle design. Elizabeth empowers women around the world to raise their level of awareness by helping them remember and recognize their inner beauty and true self-worth. She has dedicated her life story and mission to helping women use their gifts and voice to heal in order to step into their greatest potential by gaining courage, confidence, and skills to share their life-changing work with the world. With her charismatic, unapologetically stylish presence and relatable storytelling, she gives women the permission to be themselves and the tools to create a life of joy, purpose, freedom, and fulfillment. So without further ado, here's our interview with Elizabeth. Well, welcome, Elizabeth. We are so happy to have you on the podcast today.
And I am so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love your smiling face. And for anybody who's watching us on YouTube, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Beautiful smile, bright eyes.
Radiation.
Thank
She's
you.
radiating light and energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to start out with just having you tell our listeners a little bit about how you developed your passion for personal growth and lifestyle design. So tell us your story, Elizabeth.
So it wasn't always like that, that's for sure. This, lifestyle design and my passion for health and wellness really came after surviving emergency brain surgery. So 12 years ago, I survived emergency brain surgery. It was something that came out of nowhere. It wasn't planned. I had a brain tumor, didn't know I had a brain tumor. So my life literally changed in a split second in a day. And it was the morning after Christmas. So I like to say, it was kind of my gift, from God, from the universe. It was my gift because it really did change my life
Sure.
in regards to my health and how I care for myself and put myself first, because that's hard for moms and wives and partners and career women, whether it's entrepreneurs or business. It's hard for us to do. So
Mhm.
that's where it came from, because it wasn't this way before.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, did you have any inkling, let me just ask, did you have any inkling that you needed to make adjustments, before you had the significant, health event?
I did. Now, the interesting thing is, I was the person that went to the gym. So I was in the gym, but I would leave the gym and go to like a McDonald's drive through, or, go eat bagels and chips. Like, yeah. And it wasn't, I knew that I had some changes to make, but I can't say that I cared enough to make those changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you find out about your brain tumor? You said it happened the day after Christmas, like, can
Yeah.
you
I
tell would
just
you care to elaborate a little bit more?
No, no, not at all. I had about 4 seizures back to back, and I didn't even know what seizures were. I'd never had a seizure. I'd never witnessed somebody having a seizure. So
Wow.
I thought, because my sister-in-law at the time, she has epilepsy, and I had heard about these, seizure episodes, but I was like, "Oh, maybe I have epilepsy." So that's what I was thinking.
Ah,
And I was rushed to emerge. And then there they did, an MRI and a CT scan and a bunch of tests. And then doctors came back a few hours later. It took a while, and said, "Look, we need to rush you over to another hospital for emergency brain surgery. You have a brain tumor." Like, the
wow.
last thing I would like, my mind didn't even go there. That wasn't even a thought to anyone. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
so you weren't having any other symptoms before you had these
no,
seizures, it just happened. Wow, how
yes.
scary that must have been.
It was, and it was large. It was like the size of a grapefruit,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
and
Wow.
it
Oh,
was there. I didn't find this out until, well, when I went to see the neurologist a couple weeks later. It was apparently there for over 25 years.
Wow.
wow.
Isn't that
Yes,
something?
that is that is
Wow.
like, if the story didn't get more insane at that point, I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
That
my gosh.
disbelief. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you
So
just never know.
apparently, yeah, apparently what he did say was that there was no way that I wasn't having seizures. He said, more than likely I was having them in my sleep.
Mm. Mhm.
Oh, how
Yeah.
interesting.
And what's interesting about that is that, I described something to him that I would often do, and at times my husband at the time would wake me up while I was, what I call, having a nightmare. So I would have a lot of nightmares where I would like be jumping in my sleep, like like that, and they were seizures,
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
and I had been having them for years.
Oh,
Interesting.
wow.
So that was mind blowing,
Sure.
to
Absolutely.
know that's what was going on all that time. When I no, and I was thinking, like, I would wake up, or he would wake me up and say, wake up, you're having another nightmare. I think you're having," or I would wake up because I'm jumping, and I'd say, oh my gosh, I had another nightmare. I had another nightmare, and they weren't
Mm,
nightmares.
wow.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
really
So
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. Well, that's really scary. I had not a brain tumor, but I can really relate to your story, Elizabeth, because I was
Mm,
hospitalized when I was on the road several years ago. and I had presented with symptoms of a stroke, and it happened very suddenly. Kind of found myself in an emergency room too, like, she's having a stroke, and it's so surreal when something like that happens to you. And
Wow.
it ended up being a hemiplegic migraine event brought on from overdoing and not taking care of myself. So our bodies, they'll definitely tell us when we need to
Yes,
make
they
those
do.
changes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our body is in constant communication with us. I just actually went and did my full physical and PAP, and, I checked all my hormone levels. Just checked for everything. I'll be 48 in July. So I wanted to make sure I did a full physical,
Yep.
full blood work. And it was just not, it was on Tuesday. And today, doctor's office receptionist calls me and she's like, "Hey, Elizabeth." I'm like, "Okay, that's fast." So I'm like, she's like, "Oh, yeah, your results are in and the doctor, would like to see you." And I'm like, "Why?" That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I was like, "Oh, why?" She's like, "Your results came in." I'm like, "Yeah, so like, why do I have to come in?" You know? She's like, the doctor would like to go over your results with you. So, everything was great. My cholesterol, everything was excellent. But then, there were some changes in my hormones, of course, because I'm
Sure.
Yep.
turning 48.
Yeah.
But it was just so amazing and he's a genius. He's so brilliant. It was amazing how he just broke everything down to me, explained everything, was, like it just felt so good and felt good to walk out of there and know that everything's okay, everything's
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
nobody checks their brain. We don't check our heart health. We don't check our brain health. There's certain things we just don't check, even when the our body is telling us something, even when you're feeling a pain in your side and you thinking it's gas and you're going to drink some tea in hopes that it'll go away. Or
Mm-hmm.
no, like we have to, especially like women and men, obviously, but our bodies are so constantly changing as women. So it's just so important to listen and pay attention to those signs, like the communication, because it's
Mm-hmm.
always communicating with us.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
Yep.
Always
I
that whole
agree.
biofeedback. Biofeedback.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. And it's, and we don't want to know. I mean, right?
that's true.
People would rather ignore it, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
want to know if something's wrong with me. I mean, that's just our
Human
brains
nature.
are
Yep.
wired to keep us safe, to stay away from the unknown. So you'll
yeah,
push those symptoms aside and make excuses for
Mm-hmm.
them, right?
Yep.
Because you think you're keeping yourself safe, right? You think you're
oh my
keeping yourself
gosh,
in this place of comfort, but it can actually be
yeah,
putting you at extreme risk. So you're
yes,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
people, we're complex.
we are.
Mhm.
We are. And every now and then we get that knock, knock, knock.
Yeah,
Sometimes
especially
it's a grapefruit size, brain tumor. So who knows?
tumor.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
what we do know about your story, Elizabeth, is you actually turned things around as a result of that, right? And it was a wake up call. We know that it made you put your self care first. It's a non negotiable in your life now. And of course, Tracy and I work with healthcare leaders, and so self care is such a big issue for them, and where it's something we're constantly talking about and how important that is. So, tell our listeners, why that is and what you do to prioritize your self care. What's been the difference for you?
Mhm. For me, like I'm very in tune. Like I often tell my clients, first thing I say, ask them is, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? Because everything really comes down to how we want to feel. And I don't know a woman on this planet or even a girl on this planet that doesn't know how they want to feel. We know we want to feel healthy, strong, sexy, attractive. We want to feel, we know how we want to feel, right? Energetic, vivacious. So for me, it's okay if I say I want higher levels of energy. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel good in my clothes. Then I'm gonna have to set goals according to those feelings. So even if it's 20 minutes a day, which is, I like, Michelle Obama has 20 minutes a day. Like, if they can work out, and people say, oh, well, they got all these, trainers and cooks, but it's even harder for them because they have way more going on, so much more to attend to. They're taking care of the world. Really, the world is on their shoulders. So for us, it's not, it should never be an issue to give yourself or gift yourself 20 minutes of exercise, 5 minutes of meditation, or where you're just sitting there writing. Like, my morning routine consists of writing out my affirmations. I read, even if it's a page, like, I normally just pick a book like this, where it's just daily affirmations or daily devotions. And I read a page or two. I write up my affirmations, and then I work out. Right. And then I have my smoothie. So it's very consistent. It's like the same thing every morning. Very simple. There's nothing hard about it. I don't have to pack my clothes and go to the gym, and I work out from home in my living room. Super easy. And I'm addicted now. So in the beginning, it was like I would put everything else and everyone else in front of my self-care routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would go days where I didn't care to work out. And then I would say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym today. I'm just going to, walk on the treadmill or do the bike or something. And I wasn't really sweating. I wasn't, so now it's like, no, that's out the window. I work out to sweat, because sweating just makes me feel so good. And you don't need an hour. I do an hour, but you don't need an hour. You can actually do a HIIT class off of YouTube for free in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say start with 20. Start with 20 minutes. And then after that, I have my smoothie. Simple. It's like, it's a routine for me. And if I miss a day, maybe two, but I don't like missing 2 days, maybe two, then I feel off, because I've gotten to that point where I am addicted. I'm addicted. I'm addicted to this. Right. So it's like any addiction. You don't feel good without it. Right. So I would say, for anyone who's struggling with making self-care a priority, one of the things that has really worked out for me, and I actually don't even see myself back at the gym because of it, I am a part of an online live community. So there's something about the live part of this that gets me going. I log into these classes. All the ladies are there in a Zoom, all, different women from different walks of life, all different shapes and sizes. And we're all there for one reason: to feel good. And that motivates me. Like, I feed off of energy, right? So I need that. I don't enjoy working out alone. And if I do work out, and that's just me, if that speaks to you and you are that kind of person, then you know that working out alone doesn't work for you. So find an online community. There's since the pandemic, oh my goodness, like, they're everywhere. Log on to Facebook and literally find an online community, right? They're all over the place. You have no excuse not to find one, because they really are everywhere.
Yeah.
So if working out alone is an issue and you don't feel motivated, the momentum's not there, then find a live community, because that, for me, that is like, I will always want that. I'll always, like, I'm not going to tap out of this anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I just love the fact that there's a lot of different options. Everyone's different, but I love having you in the podcast, because there may be someone out there that's thought, well, I never even thought about joining an online live community when it comes to working out. It just really depends on what your experience is. And for people that do like to be with others and they get energized by that, that certainly is a easy option.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't have to be like a HIIT class. I mean, if there's so many different ways to work out: dance, Zumba, swimming, skipping. There's so many different. Find your thing. find that thing that lights you up while you're working out. It used to be cardio for me, and now it's weight training. And my body is completely changed because of it.
Yeah.
Like I would never think, because I was addicted to cardio. I was always on the machines. And then I kind of got bored of that, and my body wasn't changing much. And so I started doing weight training, and I love it now. So find your thing. If it's skipping, I have a friend of mine that skips every day for 15 minutes.
Skips.
She doesn't, that's all she does. Right?
Yeah.
So find your thing. Yeah.
Well, so what I'm hearing you say is, to prioritize this in your life, you find the thing that lights you up, right? Because when it's enjoyable
Right.
and you love it, right, and you're motivated by it, it's not hard to make it a priority.
No, it's
And then
not.
once you get in the mode, right, and you start doing it and it becomes a habit, then you don't feel right not doing it, which also helps you to prioritize it in your life, right? Because you don't feel good not doing it. And it's a part of your routine. Like you have a routine. These are the things that
Yes.
I do. So it becomes more automatic, and that makes it easier to bump it to the top of the priority. And doing things, I think sometimes too, doing things in the morning is another thing that I
Oh,
heard you say, right? Like the first thing I do is I take care of me. Then
yes.
it's not, right? Because once you get into the day, forget it, right? Like everything and his brother can get in your way, right? But in the essence of making it easy and prioritizing it, anything we prioritize, we should do first thing, right? Like it should be the first thing that we do. And
First
then,
thing.
yeah, and I think that helps. I'm a first thing kind of person, right? In the morning, first thing, do my stuff.
Yes.
Because I know that that's my priority. And it doesn't always work for everybody. We're not prescribing what everybody should or when they should do it. But
Right.
those are a few things that I heard from you.
Yeah.
And I think, creating the habit is like really critical because that's what embeds it into your everyday. But do you have any habit hacks, like other ways that you do to kind of keep your goals intact? Because, we can drift off.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are times, but do you have
Oh,
any hacks that you use?
I do. So I'm big on time blocking. That's a big thing for me. It took a while for me to master it. And even still, I mess up. Like, come on, it's going to happen, right? As a mom, as a caregiver, as an entrepreneur, things are going to get in the way. You have the girlfriend who calls you midday and says, "Hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Let's go for lunch." And then you're like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do that right now, but okay, let's go." Right? Yeah, especially when you work from home, it's so easy. So, but I time block, and that is when I'm time blocking my schedule. I notice a huge difference. Like I'm so focused. I'm clear with what I'm doing in my day. I know what's happening at 1. If I'm not finished by 2, if I said I was going to send out an email newsletter at 1, and I time blocked it for 1 to 2, I'm going to be getting this email ready, sending out the newsletter. It's going to be done by 2. Then I always give myself the 15-minute window. At 2:15, there's going to be something else that starts. If I don't finish at 2, I've got to stop. Because the only reason why I didn't finish at 2, 9 times out of 10, I was going through different tabs. I was looking on my phone. I was texting. Because we have an idea of how long a specific task is going to take. We do. We know. And the only reason it takes, 2 hours is because we weren't focused on that one thing for that time slot. But when I'm on point with my time blocking, at the end of the day, you feel so good. And I'm not on my laptop working at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I'm
true.
done by 5, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? So the time blocking is a really big thing. Another little hack or little thing that I do is when I wake up in the morning, I started doing this maybe about a year ago, and I do it consistently. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I'll turn like some kind of motivational audio on, like usually YouTube. I just go into YouTube and I might type in motivational for clarity or business, or I type in whatever words I'm feeling in the moment, and I'm listening. That's playing. I'm listening to it while I'm getting ready. But the first thing I do that when my feet hit the floor, and I do that. I right away I put on my workout outfit. Before I brush my teeth, before I wash my face, before I cleanse, before I leave the bedroom, I put that outfit on.
That's a great hack.
Yes. It literally gets me into because, workout clothes is very different than getting ready and getting the kids ready and brushing, doing things in your pajamas.
Yeah.
It's a whole different energy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a little hack that it works. It works. Yes, it does. You're in your
Yep.
sports bra and your spandex pants, and you're in that mode, and like, okay, once the kids are out the door or even before, I'm gonna work out. There's no excuses. But when we're doing these things, making the coffee, making breakfast, getting the kids ready in our pajamas, yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Too risky.
Yeah.
Too risky in the PJs.
It is. You're right.
Well, it's a different mindset,
It
right?
is.
What I'm hearing you say,
Yeah.
right? When you have your exercise clothes on, your mindset is action, right? When you got
Yeah.
your pajamas on, your mindset is sleep. As soon as these kids are out the door, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. Your brain, you're telling your brain, I'm not ready for the day. I'm not ready, right? Like I'm still in the
Yeah.
sleep mode because of so I think that's so interesting, right? Like all these
Mhm.
little things make such a difference.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just
Huge.
making that little shift can have a
Yeah.
big impact on your action, right?
Yeah.
On the
Huge.
behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah. Our
Love it.
behaviors and our
Mhm.
action. You're right. Yeah. And
Mhm.
how we get up and move, it's also why they say when you don't feel like exercising, you don't feel, get up and move your body.
Yep.
Yep.
Just that little, like, just get up, because you're literally waking yourself out of that mindset, like, oh no, let me, you have to
Yep.
take that action right away. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Those are great hacks. And Tracy and I, we time block our mornings for our morning routines, each of us. And then I think we've even stepped up our game with time blocking this year for different things we're focused on in our business. And I agree.
Mm,
We've only been doing it, February. And it's really does make a difference to do that.
it
Mhm. Mhm.
does. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
I think to myself, I don't even know how I was doing life without it.
I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
know. Well, you kick a lot of cans down the road. That's what happens, right? Like you go,
Mm,
well, I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll write that email Friday. I'll do
mhm,
that, and you just let urgent things come and then the important things get kicked down the road. And then you pretty soon you
mm.
get to the end of the week and you're like, okay, I didn't get my top 3 priorities addressed this
Yes.
week
What did I do? I
because
didn't
I
do.
was doing all this urgent stuff or maybe not even urgent, or important, but just stuff, right, that came up
Stuff.
Yep.
and I
Yep.
didn't prioritize, right? But when you say, okay, here's where I'm going to focus on this, and here's where I'm going to focus on this, and then you've got it set aside. Your mind is saying that's the time for that. And if you
Mm,
stick with it, will get the things done that are important to you, So
yeah.
Yeah.
it's that ability, it helps you kind of just recognize you are in control of your calendar. I think so many times people think they don't have any control, but they do. They
We
Yeah.
do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing because when you're working a 9 to 5, when I was working my 9 to 5, I was time blocking. You
yeah.
have to, or you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was time blocking. I knew what I had to get done at work, and I knew what my boss expected of me, and I knew. But then all of a sudden, you become an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. You're working from home, and it's like da di da di da di da. It's like, and the
Yeah.
more da di da di da we do, the more we don't make.
That's
Right.
right.
Right. It has
Right?
consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yes, it
even,
does.
even for healthcare leaders, I've been thinking about this a lot lately too. healthcare leaders in the hospital, right? It's a dynamic situation. So things are always changing. You never know when something's going to come up. But I think there are opportunities to block, right? And a lot of leaders spend a lot of time in meetings.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
so I think there is some opportunity to take control of your calendar and do some
Mm,
time blocking so that you're getting some of the priorities that are on your plate addressed and
yeah.
letting people know that, this is my time for this, and putting yourself first, right? Like getting these
Mhm.
priorities in place so
Yeah.
that then you have more energy to manage and deal with the rest of the things that are coming forth, and you're not putting your health at risk.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I have a friend of mine. Well, I have a few friends who are nurses in the healthcare industry. They work in the industry as well, and just one friend of mine. I was getting on her about water, about drinking more water, and she said, Elizabeth, she's like, I'm at work all day. And I can't keep going to the bathroom every 2 minutes. So I barely drink water at work. And I was like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. There are no open windows in hospitals. No, not very good air circulation. You don't drink water at work? How? Like how? I don't even understand that. So what if you have to use the bathroom all the time? That's the whole point, is to use the bathroom all the time because you're flushing, you're cleansing, you know, but that's just one example, where she was like, oh, I don't have time. I'm back and forth. And then and I'm like, no, like, no matter what, yes, your patients are important, but if you're not healthy, what good
Right.
are you to your patients?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just a familiar story. I think a lot of clinicians, they go all day. Like they just keep pushing, pushing, pushing. They don't drink water. They don't,
And it.
like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, oh, I haven't gone to the bathroom once today. I mean, that's a
Oh,
familiar story.
It
I'm not
is.
kidding you, Elizabeth. It
Or
what?
is.
or they don't take
It is.
breaks. They don't take
Yeah, they don't take
breaks.
breaks.
They don't feel
Mhm.
comfortable leaving their patients. They don't. They feel guilty asking their colleagues who are stretched like they are to cover for them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It happens more
Wow.
often than not,
yeah, yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's gotta change.
Yeah.
Hopefully that does. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you would think that people in healthcare would know this more than anybody else.
You're right. That's a good point.
You would think. You would think.
But they're
Yes.
so busy putting everybody else first. This is
There you
how we get
go.
into this trap, right? This is how
Yeah.
we have to realize we're
Yeah.
just as important as the patients and families that we care
Yeah.
for.
Well, thinking of your nurse friends and even your provider, that story you told earlier about how much you appreciated the mutuality with you, the teaching you what was going on. Those people that are there to serve us
Mhm.
when we get sick. Um,
Mhm.
and Tracy and I are no different. We're patients too. Every healthcare provider is a patient too. Is there
Mm.
anything you would share specifically to healthcare leaders, clinicians about prioritizing their self care? Any special message you want to give to them?
I would say if it's something that you struggle with, definitely find yourself an accountability partner. And
Yeah.
even if it's someone from work, someone who, maybe that you're both on the same schedule, you both have same shifts, it's your accountability partner, someone that you will check in. Did you drink your water? Did you take your breaks? And perhaps like even do like a point system or some kind of, there's a way in how you can celebrate. So at the end of the week, if you've, maybe like I aim for 2 to 3 liters of water a day, right? Maybe you can start with a liter or a liter and a half
Mm-hmm.
and do it for 7 days. And by Sunday, if we've had our liter or a liter and a half of water every day, by Sunday, we get to go out and drink wine or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Michelle would sign up for that one.
I don't know, hey. But, there should be like some kind of celebration or something that you can do at the end of the week. But an accountability partner, and make sure that it's someone that brings something different to the table than you do. So this person is maybe stronger in certain areas than you are. Like you've got to be able to complement each other. Because if you're terrible at time management and so is she or he, I don't know how that's going to work, right?
Right.
So, and it doesn't have to be like a close friend. It really doesn't. It's something, think of how you are also helping someone else who doesn't make their health and their wellness a priority. So just pick someone from work and say, hey, Jim, I was thinking, look, I'm struggling with this, drinking enough water, exercising, I want you to be my accountability partner. Like, can we commit to something? Because it works.
Yeah.
It does. The power of community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. It really does. I love that. I love the accountability piece, and I love leveraging strengths, because you're right. And sometimes it's not good to have your friend be your accountability, because they may not stand up to you. They may not say,
they
hey,
won't.
right? Not always.
No.
Now there are some that will, but there are some that they'll be afraid of hurting your feelings, right? Or,
Because our friends are there
they don't
for
want to
us.
alienate you
Right.
or whatever, right? And so, and that's just human nature, right?
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
judging that.
Yeah.
But so sometimes you want somebody who will hold your feet to the fire, so to speak, right? Who'll say,
Yes.
Missy, right? Like, don't
Yeah.
go there. Like,
Yeah.
that'll be your
Literally,
warning
yes.
system for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
want
That's
to have
great.
somebody like that. So that's
Yeah.
a great, and I like,
Great advice.
people in the work environment too, right? It's about supporting each other and recognizing we all have
Yeah.
struggles. We all have challenges. It's okay to say, I need some help.
It
I'm
is.
struggling
And
with this. Is there anybody
yeah.
that would be my accountability partner and help me with this? I'm really trying to, it opens it up. It helps other people be vulnerable. Other people share what their struggles are. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. And you can be the person that starts a movement at work.
Yes.
I used to I did that. I was that person when I was, working my 9 to 5. I was there for, 8 years, and I put together all these different activities and fun things that we can do. I would do water challenges all the time. Like every week I'd have a different challenge and something fun. So I know that it works. And I also know that I prefer to do it with people that I work with. And that's because, like you said, Tracy, our friends are there. They're going to love you whether you are obese. They're going to love you if you are underweight. They're going to love you no matter what, because that's what they're there to do. They're there to love you for who you are. So yeah, they might give you some advice, and well, maybe, but it's not the same. The people you work with, they're your coworkers. So I think chances are you'll be able to have something really great happening, or start something really great and beneficial and in regards to your health with someone that you work with.
Yep.
I would almost prefer to do that with someone I work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And just learn what your mutual goals are and then help each other, right? So I think that's good. That's really great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's been such a great conversation. And now we're at the time for the missing questions, Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
Typically we're talking a lot about the professional aspects of our interviewees. And we've talked quite a bit about your personal side, but we're going to learn more about you. We do this so our listeners can learn even more about our interviewees and their personal side. So just fun questions. We got 3 for you. I'm going to ask the first 2. Then Michelle's going to ask the last one. Nothing you need to worry about. So you can just relax. You got this. Nothing you can't answer. Yeah. So here's the first one.
Okay.
If you could be an actress that you admire, who would it be and why?
Oh, J-Lo.
Well, that was really quick. J-Lo. Love it.
Anyone that knows me that hears this question, they answered it before I even answered it. They said J-Lo for me.
And why would that
J-Lo.
be?
geez, why not? I mean, she's fierce, she's bold, I love her, she's business savvy. She makes her health is a non-negotiable. She talks about it all the time. She's got her morning non-negotiable routine. She does, the affirmations and the eating, and she's been doing it for many years. I love her as an actress. I love her as a performer. I love her just as an inspirational woman, Latina woman who really came from, just an average home, didn't have much at all, and has created, a legacy, an empire. But I think more than that, what I admire her for the most probably is how she takes care of herself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of
Great.
health and wellness.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2. You nailed that one, so now we're on to number 2. All right. What is one thing on your bucket list that you would like to get checked off this year in 2023?
So definitely going to Portugal. I'd like to go there, and I'm going. But yeah, that was the one thing I had on the list for this year I wanted to go for a month, but I won't be able to go for that long. But that was one thing. Yeah.
Wow,
Awesome.
wonderful.
That's back to your roots. Back to your roots.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, we have one wrap-up question for you, Elizabeth. And, we teach healthcare leaders polarity intelligence. And this is how to think both and not either or. And polarities are just interdependent pairs of values that seem opposite or contradictory, but they really are interdependent. They need each other. Think yin and yang, like they need each other.
Yeah.
And so we're going to ask you, I'm going to tell you a polarity. So it's 2 different poles. And the thing about polarities are we all tend to have a preference pole. Even though they're equally important, we tend to lean more towards one than the other or just prefer one of the poles. So I'm going to state a polarity, and we want you to tell us which one is your preference pole.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Structured and unstructured.
Structured.
Structured. Well, you got a lot of routines.
Yeah. When it's unstructured, I don't do good. I don't. I need structure. Yeah.
That's
good to
great.
know that.
That's good to know that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And unstructured is important too. You can't have everything structured in your life.
No.
But it's good to know your preference pole and the positive aspects of both of those. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I appreciate the unstructured as well, and that's why that's kind of connected to my why as to why I'm no longer at a 9 to 5 and I want to be home, the freedom of being home, and so that's interesting. Yes.
Yeah. They're both important. Awesome.
Yeah, and we can recognize that the value of both and still have a preference for one more than the other. It's just what we take. It may be kind of where we're more comfortable or where we operate better. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just is.
Right.
It's just good to know that, because sometimes you can lean too far that way and then there's consequences.
Right.
Because you need to have both, right? You need to have both.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Good
Perfect.
question.
Oh, what a great interview. It was wonderful to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Elizabeth.
both. Yes, I
Yeah.
appreciate the work you're both doing, and thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in again to another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and prioritize your health. Prioritize.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
We hope
hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.